Today we're going to be working on a 2010 Nissan Murano. We're going to be installing the VLine, and for that we're going to be taking the whole radio out here. To do that, we're going to take off the bottom cover here, undo 2 screws. We'll take off this side, and then a bunch of screws to get this out. So we'll go ahead and jump to that. Alright, so we're going to be taking off this bottom cover here. For that we're using a pry tool. And you're going to actually go right in between these 2 pieces and just pry down. Then we'll do the same thing on this side. Now that that's down, there's going to be some kind of retention clips at the back, so we'll slide it out like that. And then we've got a plug here. Just have to push in the clip and pull it out. There we go. And the clip's going to be on the side facing away from you. And then from there, we're going to be undoing 2 screws at the bottom of this trim and this silver trim. Alright, so now that we've got the 2 screws out on the bottom, you can actually just pull up on either one of these. And then you want to pull out towards you a little bit, because they do have these retention clips at the top. And you can actually just set those to the side. You don't necessarily need to unplug them. And then from there, we're going to be using a Phillips head to undo all these screws. There's 8 total, 4 on each side, and then you might have 1 up here. This vehicle didn't have it, but in some cases you'll have a 9th screw up here. And once you've got those loose, this should all come out. There we go. And there are 4 clips up top here, so you just kind of have to wiggle those to get those to come loose. And then there's also the micro SD card slot here. It looks like it flew out, but this can be pulled out and just removed, otherwise it'll come flying out. On the back of the panel here, we've got 2 plugs, so just undo those. And now that we have those removed, there's only 4 more screws to take the radio out. 2 on the bottom here, and then 2 up top. Now that we've got those out, you can go ahead and pull out the radio. Now we're going to put some towels down below it just so we don't scratch anything. And then from here, we're going to begin unplugging everything. And then now we have the radio out, we can begin running all of our wires. So now we can start putting in all the harnesses. We have the main harness here. And the first thing we're going to do is connect the steering wheel control wire, just to get it out of the way. So we're going to unscrew this almost all the way, and then you want to pull it through so your wire's exposed like that, and then you want to get it all inside of here, and then tighten it. And if you tightened it and had it in there well, you'll see it won't come out now. And we've got the 20-pin harness here. We're going to pin 6, which on this car is brown. So then you'll unscrew the other side, and put it on the wire. And tighten. Alright, now that we got that connected, we can go ahead and start connecting everything else. Make sure you don't use this big plug at the bottom, it's used for the AC. We don't want to plug into that. Alright, now that we've got all those in place, we're going to be running this over to the glove box. For the glove box, we've actually drilled a hole in the top of it, and that's where we're going to be running all of our wires through. Alright, now that we've got that through, we've got to do our microphone and a USB and GPS antenna. The area I would recommend for the GPS antenna would actually be under here. And to get that off, you're going to use a pry tool again. And you want to go on the far side here and pry it up first. Once that side's up, then you'll come down to this end. And we'll be sticking our GPS antenna right up here. I'm actually going to put it right here on the side. There we go. And then we'll be running this wire behind the display straight down. And then we're going to install the microphone next, and we'll be right back. Alright, so we put the microphone here. Now we're going to be running the cable for it. For that, I'm going to tuck it behind this, actually. then once you get up to the headliner, you can pull it down a little bit. Tuck the wire up there. As you're tucking the wire in the headliner, it might come loose over here. You'll just have to tuck it back in place. And then once it's held underneath the headliner, it should stop moving. Once you made it to this corner, this actually just pops right out. There is an airbag behind this, so make sure to run this wire behind the airbag and not in front of it. Now that we've got that there, we can pull off this weather stripping. Pop that back in place and then run our wire all the way down. And then from here we'll shoot a different camera angle and show you how we get the microphone into the glove box. Alright, so we're going to pop off this side panel here. Same thing, we're going to use our pry tool for that. It just comes right out. Now from here we're going to be taking our microphone from this top corner where the A-pillar ends and running it to this opening here. And then after that, just make sure to tuck your wire behind the A-pillar. And then you can put the weather stripping back on. Alright, so we're trying to get the microphone through one of these holes right here. The best way to do it is just to take a long zip tie and attach it to the actual microphone. And then push it through the hole and just try to get it straight, and then feel for that zip tie on the other side. And once you've got the zip tie on the other side, then you can begin pulling. Just make sure you get the tip through and it doesn't get caught. And now that we get the microphone through on this side, I'm going to go ahead and put that end cap back on. It's as simple as putting it in place and pressing in. There we go. And then all I've got to do is feed the microphone back through this hole in here for the glove box. Alright, now that we've got everything ran, we're going to work on some cable management behind the radio with all of our wires that we ran, and then we'll come back for reassembly. Alright, so we've got all of our cables managed back here. We just kind of zip tied all the slack up. After we've got everything cleaned up back there, we're going to go ahead and put this back on where the GPS antenna was installed. There's two clips on the back here that kind of need to go in at an angle. There we go. Now that we've got that back in place, we can go ahead and put our radio back in. I'm going to start with the VLine connectors, just because they're a little bit longer with the T-harness. Now that we've got those in place, we're going to look for our factory connectors back here. Alright, now we've got those all back in place. We've just got the last one that goes in the very bottom of the assembly for the AC control. Now we've got all those in place. We can slide the radio back in. And make sure you get all three of these harnesses on the bottom down here. Make sure those are still sticking out, so we'll need to plug those into the panel. Make sure they didn't get lost behind the radio. And then when you're putting this back in, there's a peg that lines up, and then there's another hole. It should line up. And then from there we begin putting in the screws. You'll notice you have 4 of these silver ones that are just rounded all the way over. Those are going to be used for putting in the radio. And then alternatively to that, there's another one that's silver, and it's got a little bit of a ledge to it. That'll be used for the actual trim on the front. So make sure you don't mix your screws up. Alright, now that the radio's back in place, we can go ahead and put this front bezel back on. Slide it in like this, and if you have a towel here, make sure to put it up. And we're just going to plug in the 2 plugs that go on the back of it, which will leave the one smaller plug still left dangling down here. actually go to that first panel that we popped off. Once you've got those two plugs in place at the very bottom of this assembly, just want to put these to the side. And it says two pieces up here, so just make sure it stays clipped in. You want to slide in the top four up here and push. There we go. And in the case there where it didn't go in, there's a harness right here that just runs from the top piece to the bottom piece. It got pushed down and was in between the CD changer slot and this, so just make sure you lift that up so it's not in the way of anything. After you've done that, we can go ahead and start returning all of our screws back in this. And I'll do all the black screws first, and then I'll put in the silver ones so you can see where those go. And if yours did have the screw up here in this corner, make sure you put that in as well. And so I've skipped two screws. There's going to be one right here, level with the volume knob, and then one over here, almost with the tune and folder knob. That's where the silver ones go. And then after that, all we've got left to do is put these back in place. Again, make sure you don't forget about the clips up top there. And that'll be the first thing you want to insert. So the top clips go in, push down, and it'll all fall into place. And after that, we've got the two more screws located at the bottom that we took out. Now that those are in place, we're going to go ahead and plug this back in and put this back in place. Whenever you do put this back in, make sure you slide these in first and then push up. We've also got our USB down here. The customer wanted it ran down here, and we should be able to get it through the gap on this, so we're going to be doing that as well. And then once you've got that pushed back in, just push on the two far corners of it and make sure it's in. And from there, everything's back together and we've got the VLine installed.